rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Guys, there's a war going on, a war against the working class, and the way in which the elites are waging the war is through private property. More elites are buying up private property, and more young people are becoming disinterested in buying a home. They're renting. This is a game plan that the radical left is executing, and they're winning. Do not let them win. How do we defeat these elite? One of the elites in America and around the globe, one of the ways in which we will defeat the elites is to start buying and not renting. You should own an asset. We're going to be talking about this next. This is very crucial. This is very important in our restoration to freedom in America, both economic freedom, civil freedom. This is a very, very important step. We're going to be talking about it next on the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Stay tuned for some message programming. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Again, we're going to be talking about a lot today. I do want to get on to, I've read a fabulous column by this guy, Joel Kotkin. We're going to try to get him on later this week or next week, Lord willing. But he wrote a column in Spiked entitled A Neo-Feudal War on the People. And again, I think this is a very, very important topic. I'm one of these guys. I'm a warrior for the middle class. I'm a warrior for Judeo-Christian values. Does that make me special? Does that make me holy? No, but I know what works. I know the things that have made America great. And what has made America great are our Judeo-Christian values and Americans' ability to be able to move up the economic ladder. If the left can destroy our Judeo-Christian values, our embracing of those values, whether it's through race warfare, class warfare, trans warfare, whatever it may be, they'll do it. Whatever they can do, whatever the left can do to make you detach to your traditional values and to detach from your family, they'll do in order to stoke chaos and to gain control of you and your mind. If the left can make you scared, if the left can make you angry, then they can make you count on them as their champion to get you through tough times. The problem is you never get through the tough times. I hope I'm making some type of sense here. By the way, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. That includes Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. Look forward to more Instagram videos as well. We're going to be pumping those out, trying to get better at that. This is stuff that, I'm new to this game, somewhat new to this game. But we're definitely working on it. We want to make sure that we get the best. We don't want to just be entertaining. We want to be informative here. And we want you to know that you have a voice in the Carl Jackson Show podcast. All of you middle-class workers, working-class people. And honestly, I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you're poor. If you love freedom, if you love Judeo-Christian values, if you want the restoration of Judeo-Christian values, if you want the restoration of the middle class, this is your podcast. I am your warrior. All right. So please follow me on all things social media, The Carl Jackson Show. Please be sure to support our sponsors, Mike Lindell of MyPillow. You guys know that he is a warrior. All right. A warrior for freedom. But beyond that, he's got an amazing testimony for one, but also he's created an amazing American company, and that is MyPillow. So go to mypillow.com. If you click on the radio listener square at the top of the page, enter my name, Carl, spelled C-A-R-L. You can take advantage of the My Pillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer. Some of you may prefer to call. You can do so at 800-858-0263, 800-858-0263. But you're going to support American jobs, American manufacturing products, and you're going to be promoting a good night's sleep for yourself. I love these My Pillow 2.0s. They have the same patented feel, but they have another outer layer that dissipates the heat, makes the pillow cooler and smoother. You will absolutely love it. I sleep well with it. My Pillow 2.0. And just browse the website. You can use my name to take advantage of deals that are up to 70% off. Also, Guys, don't forget about this, 4patriots.com, the number 4patriots.com. Listen, a food shortage could be coming even in the U.S. We're going to be talking about a looming recession that is on the way. We're going to be talking about the housing market. And again, how do you fight back against this war, the left's war on the working class? Buy property, buy assets, buy things that are tangible, and make sure that you have some food around just in case the left goes bat crazy. So whether it's a natural disaster or a Democrat disaster, a Biden disaster, whatever you want to call it, go to 4patriots.com. Make sure you get your survival kits. They got supplies, a 3-month survival kit there for you and more. You can browse the website. You'll get a year-long guarantee plus free shippings on orders that are over $97. A portion of every sale goes to help out charities that help veterans and their families. And you're going to have the peace in knowing that you have a 25-year survival kits ready in case of a disaster. All right. So these kits are stackable. They're water resistant. The food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals are ready to go in just 20 minutes. All you have to do is add boiling water, simmer, and serve. So go to 4Patriots. That is the number 4Patriots.com. Use the promo code Carl. Okay. Now, I want to get into, just real quickly, I want to get into the CPAC audio, and then I want to go into, Gabe, what did we say we were going to name this thing? I'm trying to get the framing of this thing right. I came up with so many titles this morning, I forgot myself, but basically, here's Private Property Matters. That's not going to be the title anymore, but I do want to talk about private property, and I'm going to tie the Green New Deal, all this crap together. All this crap together. We're going to tie it all together. And I'm going to explain to you why it's important that not only you try to purchase a home, but you convince the youngins around you to purchase a home, because there is a war being waged on the working class in America, not just the working class in America, but around the globe. But we're Americans, so we're going to focus predominantly, obviously, on America. But we're going to title this puppy, America's Wealth Gap Grows, because it is growing. The monetary chasm between the elites and the poor is getting wider and wider and wider. The pandemic brought this on, but it was already occurring. I was one that talked about this before in terms of, man, I don't care how rich people get, but when the rich people are getting rich and closing the door behind the working class, I get a little pissed off. And so we're going to be talking about that in great detail, thanks to this article by Joel Kotkin at Spiked. But first, I do want to play some audio for you from CPAC. And I got to tell you right off the bat, I didn't listen to Trump's entire speech at CPAC. I didn't follow CPAC over the weekend, to be honest with you, but I was able to hear some clips, and I heard some of the things that former President Donald Trump said. And I got to tell you right off the bat, I think this is what I've been saying. I wish I would have tweeted it because it so frustrated me because the number one way, or the number one reason I think Donald Trump will be, or at least likely be, the nominee going for 2024. And I love Ron DeSantis. And I can't stand when Republicans bash Ron DeSantis, because it pisses me off that they don't realize we're going to need more than just 4 years of Trump in the White House. They're like, oh, Trump first plus, DeSantis hate. But then they bash DeSantis and they turn DeSantis off to independent voters that they're going to need to get him in. It just pisses me off to no end. It's the dumbest thing ever. Republicans and conservatives know how to shoot themselves in the foot. There's no doubt about that. So it's like, support Trump, go all out for Trump. And if you don't want to vote against it, or you don't want to vote for DeSantis, don't vote for DeSantis, but don't impugn his integrity in such a way that other people won't vote for him, because we're going to need a minimum of 12 years to get this country back intact. Joe Biden has destroyed it that much. So please don't be one of those idiots that just destroy people for the sake of destroying people. It just drives me nutty. And I love Trump, but 4 years, simply, I don't care if Trump goes for the gusto, whatever he does, he's going to be fighting the deep state. 4 years is not going to be enough to turn this country around. That's just true. But having said that, I do think having a Trump presidency would be a great start, or another Trump presidency or Trump term would be a great start to restoring this nation. We'll get into Jackson's 5 as well. I've decided what I'm going to do, at least for now. You guys tell me if you want something different. I'm going to bring you the bigger story. I'll close out with some of Jackson's 5 to just kind of explain what's happening around in America, what's in the headlines, the things that are in the headlines. But let's go ahead and roll this tape. This is Donald Trump. Please subscribe to our podcast. You can watch the video. Just go to The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube, subscribe, rate, review. You'll get our podcast right to your inbox, and we would greatly appreciate that. It'll help us spread the word of freedom here. This is every person for 10 podcast, and I'm talking about the 10 amendments. This is a middle class rebellion, a working class rebellion, whatever you want to call it. I believe this is the podcast that's going to help get America back on track. So the Carl Jackson Show podcast on YouTube. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. This is former President Donald Trump at this year's CPAC. Oh, and let me say this. Let me just make this observation. I really think it was a bad idea for some conservatives that are eyeing the presidency not to go to CPAC. And that includes Governor Ron DeSantis. And I'll tell you why. I know there's this looming scandal, alleged scandal, Matt Schlapp, that runs CPAC. Allegedly, he groped or fondled a male staffer of Herschel Walker's campaign. He denies it outright. So I don't know if it's true or not, but there's no doubt that is a story that was looming over CPAC. Here's the bottom line. The Republicans, regardless, true or not, all right, they're never going to get good press from the left. So you don't back away from these events unless you, if this is confirmed, then I'd back away. If it's not confirmed right now, you got Matt Schlapp fully denying this, then you don't back away, because you're always going to get negative press from the mainstream media if you're a Republican, if you're a conservative. So let's not allow them to dictate how we behave. All right. Now, let's go ahead. I keep saying this, but let's go ahead and roll the tape. Por favor, Gate.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today, I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution. Not going to let this happen.
Okay, so let me just stop it right there. And all right, so I am your warrior. I am your justice. I am your retribution. I believe this is the best thing that Donald Trump could have said. And I'll tell you why. I think the number one reason to vote for Donald Trump in 2024 is justice. And we don't use that name or we don't use that term often enough. Those of us that are on the right, we think of social justice, and we think of the word, and the left uses it all the time, and it's justice this and it's justice that. But no, there is a such thing as true justice. There's a such thing as God's justice. And if you believe that you were wrong, I do believe that we were wrong in 2020. Now, I'm frustrated with some of former President Donald Trump's attorney team. I think they should have been focused on the lawsuits that Democrats were bringing early on in the pandemic to try to switch the rules, or switching the rules leading up to the elections. I think some of his attorneys should have been, they should have been on that, like stink on boo-boo, and they were not. But nonetheless, the left used the pandemic and mailed out all of these ballots in order to win elections that they would not have won otherwise. I don't believe they would have won the swing states otherwise. All right. And not only that, but to see what's been aimed against us. Consider the J6 mostly peaceful protesters that are now serving as political prisoners. Consider the censorship that has gone on. Consider what we saw with Justice Kavanaugh, where these abortion the DOJ just turning on people that vote Republican. The Merrick Garland, you saw the questioning. I played the video for you last week where he did absolutely nothing to protect our Supreme Court justices, where this nut job literally almost assassinated, or at least went to Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home to assassinate the man. This is what we have been dealing with. It has been insane. It has been un-American. The racial divide, thanks to the left, has grown. Crime has skyrocketed thanks to the left. So if you want justice, if you want retribution, if you want someone that's going to take up your cause, Donald Trump says he's the man. This is the best thing he could have said. That was powerful, because I've been arguing, and I got to tweet it out more. The number one reason to vote for Donald Trump in 2024 is justice. And nobody And I got to say this, and I'm a guy who frankly, if Ron DeSantis becomes president, I'll be just as happy. All right. I'm open and honest with that. I'm a Trump or DeSantis guy. All right. But I don't think anybody fulfills that promise of justice like Donald Trump, because in my opinion, it's obvious that he was wrong. I can't stand some of the things he's doing with DeSantis. That really pisses me off, because I'm like, Trump, I love you, man. But 4 years of you ain't going to be enough. All right. You can come in and bust down the walls of the deep state and all that kind of stuff, but someone's got to come in and not just manage. Someone's got to come in and do some dissecting and all that kind of crap, some amputations. And I think so far, at least, DeSantis appears to be the best man for that job, that also has a spine of steel to do that. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and keep rolling the tape. Let's keep rolling the tape here, Gabe.
But I stand here today, and I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily. And you're going to have World War III, by the way. You're going to have World War III. If something doesn't happen fast, you're going to have World War III.
All right. That's Trump talking about World War III. Guys, look around at what's going on in the world. This is one of the issues that'll be on Jackson's 5. Actually, let me just go ahead and make mention of this now. I'm just going to work them in, but this is in the headlines. Here it is. I'm sorry, I can barely see here. Iran agrees to reinstall cameras at the nuclear facilities, which is, listen, they weren't really following the rules anyway. But nonetheless, the Financial Times reports this. The UN's atomic watchdog has said in a statement, as I just moved down, has said Iran has agreed to the reinstallation of cameras and other monitoring equipment at its facilities after months of mounting Western concerns about the country's nuclear program. Iran removed more than 20 cameras and other equipment from its nuclear plants last year. Oh, my God. Escalating its standoff with the West in what appeared to be a retaliatory move after members of the International Atomic Energy Agency issued a resolution criticizing Tehran over its nuclear activity. Now, here's part of the problem. Iran was never following the Iran nuclear deal that was put in place by Barack Obama. As a matter of fact, there was no deal because Iran never agreed to it. Did you guys know that? They never agreed to it. Whatever the council is, or the cabinet under was it Mahmoud Ahmadinejad at the time? Nobody agreed to the deal. Obama just said this deal happened. We have a deal with Iran. You know, they agreed in principle. They never wrote anything down. They never agreed to anything. So we couldn't go and investigate their everything that they were doing with their nuclear power, so on, et cetera. We couldn't go do that. All right. So they had the upper hand on us, and I suspect they still do because the cameras were down. There's no telling what they've already accomplished. And all they'll do is put cameras up and say, see, we've complied, but we don't know what they've done in the meantime. This is absolutely crazy. And this is what happens. Trump is right. Biden is going to get us. Sadly, I hope I'm wrong. But if things don't change drastically, I do believe that Biden is going to get us into World War III. And for this reason, why wouldn't these dictators move on Joe Biden when he's so weak? Putin did. All right. Putin did it. You don't think Xi Jinping is? You don't think Xi Jinping is going to try to make his moves before Trump gets in office? I think he will. Or DeSantis gets in office? I think he will. Quite frankly, I can't stand them, but they're not dumb people. They may be evil, but they're not dumb. So if they're going to make their moves, to take Taiwan and for Russia to take as much of Ukraine as they want, of course they're going to do it while Biden is in office. Let's continue to roll the tape, Gabe.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly. I will get the problem solved, and I will get it solved in rapid order, and it will take me no longer than one day. I know exactly what to say to each of them. I got along very well with them. I got along very well with Putin, even though I'm the one that ended his pipeline. Remember, they said, Trump is giving a lot to Russia. Really? Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate like hell to see you as my enemy. With Obama, they took Crimea. With Biden, they're trying to take everything. And he won't even know they took it. Party that was ruled by freaks, neocons, globalists, open border zealots, and fools. But we are never going back to the party of Paul Ryan, Karl Rove, and Jeb Bush. China-loving politicians, of which there are many. You listening to this, Mitch McConnell? Are you listening?
All right, so that was Trump calling out the people that he believes are China-friendly, the globalists of the party, the Jeb Bushes of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world, the Paul Ryans of the world. All of these people seem to be not as concerned about China as they should be. And listen, we've got to defeat China. We've got to be the major manufacturers around the world. Guys, we are the good guys. I don't care what the left says. America are the good guys. We are the good guys. China is not. All right. China is a communist. It's a communist regime that wants to control everyone, that wants to control everything, that wants to control how many children people can have. It's a sick regime, much like the Democrat Party. But they use military force at this point. Right now, we have political prisoners, but our military isn't going around and shooting us yet. All right. So hopefully we never get to that. Point. Okay. So let me do this. I want to talk about this wealth gap that is growing, and it has to do with housing. When it comes to there's a war being waged on the working class. There's a war being waged on the middle class, and this is very important for us to fight back. One of the ways in which we can fight back is buying assets. I understand that this is going to be difficult, but we have to call our congressmen. We have to call our senators. You have to do all you can to save, to pay off debt at the same time, and to invest where and if possible. If you need to work two jobs, whatever it is, you need to be saving. You need to be paying off debt. And if possible, you need to buy a home. Going to this article from Spike, Joel Kotkin wrote it. And he wrote a book called the Coming of Neo-Feudalism. He wrote this in 2020. But the wealth has become increasingly concentrated in ever fewer hands, he writes. So he says the good news is that the working and middle classes are not yet out for the count. They're showing welcoming signs of pushback against both state and corporate power. But the world's wealth is being amassed in the hands of the elite. I think we all know that by now. And notice this: notice how the elites are using racial and trans warfare and to increase the financial divide. So they're using these cultural divides to increase the financial divide or the financial chasm. They're getting us all hot and bothered. They're getting all of us divided. Meanwhile, what they're doing is increasing their wealth. It's amazing how that works. Despite media spin for in favor of the status quo, here's what's happening. Inflation continues to outpace incomes. Think about that. Inflation is continuing to outpace incomes, even more so in Europe, Canada, Australia, and Britain. So you have the dollar that isn't worth as much as it used to be. I went to the grocery store yesterday. I bought a few things. I kid you not. I bought a few things, what I thought were a few things. I walked out paying $126. And I just sat there. I don't even like going because I'm sitting there thinking I would have paid probably half to three quarters of this just a couple of years ago. The inflation is absolutely insane. I'm looking at the bags of chips, some of the tortilla chips that I get, the henna line chips, toast. I turned them down. I like snacking on those things. I love them. All right. But the bag it looks like it's half as big and it costs a lot more. And that was just, that was one of the items that I decided to pass up. I'm looking at these things and I'm like, I'm not going to pay that much for that. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. Household debt in the U.S. is higher than at any time since 2008. And this is a big problem, mostly amongst millennials. So consider this household debt. We had this great economy under former President Donald Trump, except for the fact he spent too much money. I'm sorry, guys. We got to be real. If we're going to be conservatives, if we're going to be Republicans, even though Republicans seem to spend a lot too, our debt is absolutely insane. And under Trump as well, Republicans spent too much doggone money. We got to stop that nonsense. All right. It's just getting out of control. Otherwise, the value of the dollar is going to continue to decrease if we don't get our spending under control. All right. But household debt, the highest that it's been since 2008. You guys know what happened in 2008. I can remember working my landscape business, working one area of the town where a lot of people, you had college graduates, people that had been out for probably a few years or more, and everybody was buying these nice homes and these nice cars. And I'm like, man, these people have all of this money. And then the crap hit the fan, economically speaking. And so many of those people, I kid you not, at least 50% of my clientele were just like their homes were just being foreclosed and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, I thought these people had money. They didn't. Number 3, he writes about Joel Cocken. In the U.S., the ratio between savings and credit card debt is at its worst in 12 years. So the ratio between savings and credit card debt, so savings is decreasing, credit card debt is growing among some of you. This has to stop. This is the way in which we fight back against the left. This is how we fight back against the elites. This is exactly what they want. They want more power concentrated in their arms. And how do they do that? By attaining more of the assets, or attaining more of the wealth. This idea that you should rent forever. And listen, some people can't afford to buy. I get that. But your goal should be to buy. Do not let these people talk you out of buying a physical asset. They're doing that on purpose. It's funny how the left and how these globalists are trying to talk you out of buying a physical asset while they're trying to accumulate wealth via physical assets. So do what they do. If you want to be wealthy, you're probably not going to be a billionaire. I'm not going to be a billionaire. I'm not going to be, well, Lord willing, I might. But all right, that would be nice. But I mean, come on, Jeffrey Bezos, Elon Musk, these are the richest people in the world. I don't have an Elon Musk type mind, and I don't care that I do. God makes everyone differently. So I'm going to do my thing, but I don't want the rich people closing the doors behind them, right? This is America. Housing purchases are suffering huge declines as costs have reached the highest level since '07. And that's before the onset of what many predict could be a serious recession. So you got a serious recession that is looming. Housing prices are suffering huge declines again, as costs have reached the highest level since 2007. But a lot of younger people are being priced out of the market. They're just totally being priced out of the market with these interest rates, and the Treasury is going to continue to increase interest rates because inflation isn't over. Inflation is still out of control. It says here, over on the 6 months from June, American households lost $2.3 trillion in value. This according to Redfin. So it's getting harder for people to buy a home, but at the same time, you can see the housing market is slowly decreasing. And this isn't great, but it's still better to own an asset. All right. Some of this can be traced to the pandemic. He writes industries like hospitality were hit especially hard, as well as many small businesses. Listen to this. As late as April 2022, more than 2 years after the pandemic began, 2/3 of American small businesses were still struggling. Why? Because we didn't get the favors. Small businesses didn't get the favors that major corporations did. By December 2022, 4 in 10 still could not pay their rent, with hundreds of thousands closing down in the first year of the lockdown. And it's important that I'm so glad that he used the term lockdown instead of the pandemic. Look at, man, if you go to California, one of the things that you would love about California, well, you wouldn't love the crime now, but besides the climate, besides the weather, one thing I loved about growing up there is a mom and pop restaurant on every, or at least there used to be, on every freaking corner, it seemed like, where you could get some good, authentic Mexican food, soul food, you name it. Whoever was out there, I mean, just American food, big old hamburgers and French fries, and from some of these places out there that are pastrami sandwiches, some of the best, absolutely amazing. That's hard to find here in Florida. You got more mom and pop shops starting to pop up. But I mean, in California, they were so plentiful, it's unbelievable. But so many of those businesses have shut down, and they shut down as a result of the lockdown for no other reason, because the same rules weren't being applied to some of the major corporations and big businesses out in California and across the nation. All right. So school children, particularly from the poor and working class, suffer both the loss from learning and social isolation. But do you think big businesses suffered in the same way? Do you think California, for example, Gavin Newsom's kid suffered from isolation or suffering a loss of learning from being out of school? Remember, he was in a basketball camp, not wearing a mask. His son was, just like his father wasn't wearing a mask when he was caught at the French Laundry. You think that any of these elites stopped living life as a result of the lockdowns? No, they didn't. They forced it on us. All right. So don't fall. How do you fight back against these people? Don't buy into this crap. Buy an asset, own a home, get out of debt, save as much as possible. I'm trying to kick it in gear myself. I was slacking a little bit on some of this stuff. I'm like, oh man, I gotta kick it up a notch. I can't let these freaking globalists beat me. I can't let them beat me. The pandemic and its aftermath also expanded an already evident class divide. The columnist writes, with ever fewer middle-class neighborhoods, Americans have become increasingly economically segregated. You're going to see that. I used to see that in California. You lived in the hood, and then you could go to very nice areas of California. You see Beverly Hills, some parts of Hollywood. Some parts of Hollywood are a disaster. A lot of people don't know that. But some parts, obviously, Hollywood Hills, so on, et cetera, really nice. Beverly Hills, some places that you go out in the valley, headed out towards San Diego, you got some beautiful country. In Northern California, you have some beautiful country out there. But this is what the left does. They divide people and they're making a lot of people poor. Two classes have benefited most from the aftermath of the pandemic. All right. So you have both. One was the government clerisy, he calls it, basically the bureaucracy. Washington, D.C. area and the surrounding towns are some of the wealthiest towns in all of America. Why? Because of the concentration of power and money that's in D.C. All right. Another class has benefited. The tech giants and Wall Street have benefited big time as a result of those lockdowns. And some of those places are still benefiting. He says here, tech firms have benefited from what leftist author Naomi Klein calls the Green New Deal. I love that. An effort to create a permanent and highly profitable no-touch future. Tech behemoths, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google enjoyed record-breaking profits amid the 4 months of lockdown disruption, adding more than $250 billion to their combined valuation by the end of July 2020. You guys might remember, I remember when the lockdown started, even here, you had these small businesses that had to close, but big businesses, whether it was Home Depot, Lowe's, all of these places could stay open, but the mom and pop stores couldn't. Like, what was the difference? So you have more people concentrated in these big businesses. It's the difference of having lobbying power and not having lobbying power. He says the end of the pandemic has shaken up the tech economy, driving massive layoffs and plummeting valuations. Yet none of this threatens the oligarchy's grip on virtually every critical aspect of technology. So the tech future is still bright because they've got AI, they've got cloud services, they've got underwire fiber optic cables. And they're in total control, or they're in the hands of all the oligarchs or in the hands of Chinese firms. So these guys still, as they recover, have control over technology, have control over AI, have control over the fiber optics cable. So it's either the elites in the United States or the Chinese Communist Party. He says the once proudly cultural garage startups is now dominated by corporate giants. Basically, the nerds became the cool kids, and now they're mad. Now they're pissed off. Oh, we were nerds when we were younger. Now we're rich. Now we're powerful. We're going to tell you how the world should be ruled. This is how these people think. He talks about property and inheritances. The key issue, he says, is property. The changing class dynamics are reflected by patterns of land ownership. So housing prices have grown 3 times faster. Listen to this. Housing prices have grown 3 times faster than household income over the past 2 decades. This is how you crush the American dream. This is how you end the American dream. In this new order, he talks about an economist, Thomas Piketty, who says, quote, inherited wealth will make a comeback, close quote. In France, and what does that mean? Oh, well, let's just read on. In France, inheritance as a shape of GDP grew roughly 4% in 1950 to 15% in 2010. So basically, you have this widening wealth gap between the poor and the elite set on. Listen, it was already growing, but the lockdowns exacerbated it. So now, instead of more people becoming wealthy that are new time or first time millionaires and so on, etc., you're basically going to have the rich are going to get even richer and the poor are going to get even poorer. And the middle class is going to continue to decline. Millennials who received inherited money or bequest inherited more money than many workers make in a lifetime, he says. The growing importance of inherited assets is even more pronounced in Germany, Britain, and the U.S. So inherited assets, how do the rich get richer? Assets, assets, assets. That's why those of you that are falling for this idea, no, I don't want to buy. I'll just rent. You will own nothing and you will be miserable and enslaved. This idea from Davos that you will own nothing and you will be happy. If you own nothing and you will be happy, how would they know? How would they know? Because they own jets, they own yachts, they own land, they own property, housing. How would they know? You will own nothing and you will be miserable. Climate. These trends have been exacerbated by a climate-driven housing policy, he says, that seeks to pack people into dense urban areas. That's another way in which the left and the globalists win. Such policies are reversing 75 years of expanding property ownership in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. and Australia, as well as other high-income countries, he writes. All right? So they want to get us in these dense areas. They don't want us to be in the suburbs at all. They don't want us to invest in property. They want to keep us contained in these cities so that they can control us. He says property ownership, widely seen as a key to middle class status, is morphing into a rich man's game. All right. So if you don't want to be a part of the poor class, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. If you want to remain and keep the working class alive, if you want to save the work, that's a better way to frame it. If you want to save the working class, save, get out of debt, make sure you buy a home, purchase an asset, work your butt off to purchase an asset, stay out of debt and all other facets if you can. I listen to Dave Ramsey. So if you have to buy a car, make sure you can pay it off in a couple of years, but you try to pay cash for as much as you possibly can. Well, guys, I slip on this stuff, but he's a go-to for me, Dave Ramsey, because he's a biblical guy. All right. He's not doing ads here, but I love the guy, trust the guy. Been following his program for quite some time, even though I've slipped in, but getting back on track here. All right. So we see, again, a reversing of 75 years of expanding property ownership. Again, property ownership, widely seen as the key to middle class status, is morphing into a rich man's game. So that's why part of the reason why the left wants to get rid of the American dream. That's part of the reason in which why they want to convince the millennials not to buy a home, but to rent. It's crazy. And they'll keep them so scared out of their minds that these people continue to rent, and they don't buy. Because if the world is going to end, why would you buy? Just enjoy life now. This is very dangerous. He says in this period, oh, you know what? There's a couple of things that I missed that I want to make sure that I get. He said in the decade from 2010, the proportion of real estate wealth in the U.S. held by middle class and working class owners fell substantially. So in the decade from 2010, so we got in the last, 13 years now, while that, he says, that is controlled by the wealthy grew from 28% to 43%. So as many working class, middle class Americans either lost their homes or could not afford to buy homes, guess what the wealthy were doing? They were buying those assets, furthering the wealth gap. In this period, he says, high household incomes enjoy 71% of all gains from housing wealth. Okay, save your money, get out of debt. Don't spend more than you make. I don't care if you're broke as a joke. Do not spend more than you make. All right. If you have a beer salary, don't live a champagne like you have a champagne budget. Don't do it. Even poor people grow rich by learning how to save, learning to stay out of debt as much as possible. I have my what I call my Puerto Rican grandfather. He would always tell me, doesn't matter how much you make, matters how much you save. And at the time I was like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? But I understand. I understand exactly what he was saying. Young people are being priced out of the housing market. Again, just to reiterate, he says for many, especially the young, the chance of ever owning a home seems remote. This is bad news, he says, for inequality, right? Because inequality is going to actually expand. It's going to grow. Got to take a sip. In 2019, he writes, homes accounted for roughly 2/3 of the wealth of middle income Americans, with homeowners that enjoyed a median net worth roughly 80 times that of renters. Listen to that. Homeowners enjoyed a median net worth 80 times more than that of renters. And this is simple. All right. So the house that we're staying in now, we purchased what? Just over 3 years ago. And I want to say it's appreciated. I'm trying to do math in my head. It's appreciated over 50% in a very short period of time. All right. And that is after the market has calmed down, because it literally had gone to almost it was headed towards double territory. All right. But the market has calmed down. I believe the market has settled down to probably where it should be, frankly. And at least here in Florida. But it's absolutely insane. But look at all the equity in just a very short period of time that we've gained compared to people that have never bought. So that's money. That's an asset, right? Whether I move or if I decide to rent, whatever it may be, that's money that's there. It's not in my hand. But if I sell the property, that money is there. That increases my net worth. The people that are just renting and that the left is telling just rent, don't buy. The sky is falling, global warming, all this stuff. They will never grow their assets. And so what will happen? They'll be dependent on the state. That is exactly what the left wants. He says, yet large financial institutions like the UK's Lloyds Bank and its American counterparts are today working overtime to buy up the supply of single family homes. So all of these Wall Street, all of these banks, they're still trying to buy up property, single family homes, which will drive the cost up, price you out of the market, right? But it'll increase their wealth. In a stark illustration of the generation's changing prospects, he says only a third of UK millennials owned a home in 2018, compared with almost, listen to this. So a third of UK millennials owned a home in 2018. This is compared with almost 2/3 of baby boomers at the same age. That's a major shift. That is a major shift. He says, he goes on to talk about and bash the green ideology, if you will. The middle class is also under pressure from green ideology. Perhaps the once aspirational middle orders will resign themselves to renting. We've talked about that. A future where they will own nothing and be happy. No, they won't own nothing and be happy. Again, they will own nothing and they will be miserable and they will be enslaved, because they won't be able to fall back on their own assets. Eventually, they're going to run out of money. They're going to run out of jobs, these millennials, and they're not going to be able to fall back on their own assets. And that's exactly what these globalists and the leftists are banking on. He says, nor can they rely on a reliably growing economy, the traditional engine of upward mobility. He says today's green theology, adopted by both the bureaucratic clerisy and the oligarch elite, has little room for economic growth that might sustain a comfortable middle class. Meanwhile, the elite's wealth continues to rise regardless, thanks to asset inflation, right? So we got this asset inflation that is going on. So the rich is getting richer while you're not. In the U.S., recent impressive job growth numbers came predominantly, and listen to this. So the job growth numbers that we have, all right, some of these jobs are being filled. First off, we still have millions of people out of the labor force that were in the labor force pre-lockdowns, all right? So Joe Biden is lying about that. But the people that are getting the jobs or predominantly in lower wage service professions like restaurants and hospitality. So that's still the issue. In the past 3 months, he says almost 2/3 of all new jobs occurred in historically low paying sectors. This is what Joe Biden continues to brag about. More on the green ideology. Rather than expanding the economic pre-green ideology, generally, he says, rather than expanding the economic pie, green ideology generally favors what is labeled degrowth. All right. So that's the alarmist outlook based upon assumptions about the environment that are either exaggerated for them to make money or just straight up a lie. So he says this quest to reduce carbon emissions at all costs limits the scope for higher wage jobs, even in traditionally prosperous countries, obviously like Germany and like the U.S. Why is that? Because skilled jobs, notably in manufacturing, depend heavily on reliable energy and affordable energy. Fossil fuels, reliable and affordable. And by the way, natural when it comes to fossil fuels. And if you want the cleanest of energies, that would be nuclear. That would be nuclear gas. But we don't do that. He talks about the well-funded green advocacy groups that are damaging influence, right? As energy commentator Robert Bryce has shown, he writes, green NGOs, non-government organizations, receive well over 4 times as much revenue in 2021 as those NGOs promoting nuclear energy or fossil fuels. He said these groups are openly paying journalists at places like the AP and the NPR to be their shills. Outfits which surprisingly prefer climate change fear mongering to critical thinking, he says. All right. So these reporters, acolytes consistently project this nightmare vision of food shortages and devastating coastlines with this green energy nonsense, endless droughts, irreversible poverty is some of the stuff that they preach. So why would anyone want to buy a home if this is true? They're trying to scare you out of an asset. Do not let them do it. You want to save the working class. You want to save the middle class. Buy a home. I can't be more emphatic about this. I cannot be. He says as many as 56% of young people worldwide believe that humanity is doomed. This is absolutely scary. And this catastrophism and embrace of austerity reflects a worldview that is best described as what he calls medievalist, in which the lower classes will be expected to make sacrifices while the upper class is not expected to make sacrifices. So you're going to be expected to make a sacrifice. You won't be able to buy a home. You won't be able to own a car, especially electric cars, because they're too freaking expensive. But the elites can do it, and they're going to make money off of it because they're investing in green energy simply because they're directing and they're shaping where the market is going. And they're just going to invest in this stuff. Green energy isn't better for the planet. For God's sakes, it's allegedly killing whales and sea life on some of our coastlines now, building these wind farms and prepping to build these wind farms. It's absolutely amazing what's happening. He also says as part of the green agenda, some cities are even eyeing policies to restrict the use of cars outside of immediate neighborhoods. So they want to use these EVs so they can shut you down, so they can shut freedom down. Man, it's insane what these people are doing. This assault on the middle class is already evident in ultra green California and Germany. He talks about in California, climate center regulations have helped chase away many blue jobs. A lady by the name of Jennifer Hernandez has labeled this the green Jim Crow. This draconian policy agenda essentially bans new housing construction on the urban fringe. Larry Elder talked about this in his gubernatorial campaign. He also says the Deutsche Bank or Deutsche Bank's Eric Heyman has noted massive reduction in greenhouse gas emissions can only come at the cost of declining middle class standards of living. So this isn't a guy that's warning. This Eric Heyman is. He's saying, hey, this is what has to happen. The poor people are going to have to say, or the middle class people are going to have to say, you know what? In order to save the planet, our lifestyles are going to have to decline. You guys are going to have to sacrifice. Now, we, the rich people, we don't have to sacrifice, but you guys do. I mean, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to get wealthy. Oh, my God. To achieve this reversal, Heyman suggests, and I quote, a certain degree of economic or eco-dictatorship will be necessary. In a similar vein, environmental scientists at Leeds University in the UK are now proposing, quote, second World War style rationing, petrol, household energy, and meat to fight climate change. Other climate clerics have proposed such dietary strictures as going all vegan, eating insects, right? The left won't do it. They'll be eating cows. There'll be few of them left for us to eat, but the left will be eating cows. We'll be eating insects. That's what they want, because the rich will not sacrifice. And increasingly, what's going to happen, the struggling masses are going to steadily move to state support. That's what they want to do. So there's got to be a middle class rebellion. All right. So faced with the prospects of gradual extinction, he says, will the middle class rebel? In Europe, farmers, suburbanites, and small business people are pushing back against the policies that threaten their livelihoods. The question is, will Americans? And the U.S. Gallup poll notes that public approval for key institutions, whether it's Congress, the universities, large corporations, is at a historic low. But I'm not sure that means anything, because a lot of people vote the same way. They do the same thing over and over. And sadly, increasingly, more young people want socialism. So tell them what this socialism is really about. For those of you that know better, for those of you that have lived this before, that for those of you that have suffered through 2008 and early on in 2009, or for those of you that have grown your wealth through property, make sure you're telling young people what's really at stake. The rich are not sacrificing. The rich, the elite, they will not sacrifice. You will sacrifice. You will be miserable, and you will not love it. You will be enslaved, or you will be poor and you will be happy, or whatever they say in Davos. But sadly, again, a lot of young people are starting to embrace this crap. But there's got to be this willingness to speak out. There's been a distrust. Distrust of the institutions is a bad thing in this sense. We don't trust journalists anymore. We now know they're being paid, AP, NPR, to spread some of this bogus nonsense. All right. So we don't want a complete distrust for the media, sadly. But unfortunately, we're getting there. But it is good to have a healthy distrust for media, to question everything, including this show, to research for yourselves. All right. What's more, he talks about the flight from big cities in the 21st century. So this is a way that some people are fighting back, which accelerated post-pandemic, could hamper elites' control over daily life. So if you're not living in these big cities, in these urban areas, the left can't control you. Crime is crazy. Poverty is rampant. All this kind of stuff. The left can control you. People are going to need a lot of help in those Democrat-run cities. Get out of them. But when you leave, don't you dare vote for Democrats. Don't you dare vote for Democrats. Don't think it was just that Democrat. No, Democrats follow the same policy. So don't you dare vote for Democrats. Very, very, very important. Resistance to the left, to the centralized government. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever you are. It's very, very crucial. All right, guys, let me just close this out with Jackson's 5. And let me play a quick clip. This is Chris Tucker. One of the things I wanted to mention. Chris Tucker. And by the way, this program is brought to you today by MyPillow.com. MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener square, please, guys, at the top of the page. I promise you will love these pillows, and you get to support American jobs and American manufacturing. And that's really what we need. We need American jobs. We need American manufacturing to come back to the United States. Mike Lindell is doing that at MyPillow.com. You can go to MyPillow.com, buy one, get one free, the MyPillow 2.0s. You're going to love it. The same patented feel, internally, but you get this outer layer that's nice, fancy, cool, smooth. The heat dissipates. I love it. I use it. I'll be honest with you. So I didn't think he would be able to beat the first MyPillow, and I love the first MyPillow. So I still sleep with the first MyPillow on the side, but I've been using MyPillow 2.0. But I keep the MyPillow one there as a safety net for some reason. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. But anyway, I love MyPillow 2.0. You can give them a call, 800-858-0263, to take advantage of the buy one, get one free deal, or just browse their website. You get up to 70% off on some products. All you have to do is use my name, spell it CARL, and 4patriots.com. God forbid a natural disaster happens. God forbid another Democrat or Biden disaster happens where we're going to see food shortages in our stores. Be prepared. Get yourself a survival kit from 4patriots.com. Make sure that your family, men, do your job. Step up. Make sure your family members are taken care of. All right. Get it to 25-year survival kit. They have 3-month supplies available and more. All you have to do is go to the number 4patriots.com. A portion of every sale goes to help out charities that support veterans and their families. These kits are water resistant. They're easily stackable. Again, they last for 25 years. All you have to do is pull them out, get them ready. Or all you do to get them ready is boil water. At the boiling water, simmer, serve. They're ready to go in 20 minutes. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Go to 4patriots.com. Use the promo code Carl. Oh, also, you get 10%. Those of you that are purchasing for the first time, if you use my name, you get 10% off of your first purchase. So go to 4patriots, the number 4, patriots.com. All right. So let's wrap up with this. And maybe I'll share a couple stories from Jackson's 5. But here it is. Chris Rock, we've covered Trump. We've covered the war. How do you fight back against the global elites and the elites in the United States? Buy a home. Now, here's Chris Rock. I'm glad he's done this tour. Obviously, he needed to get this out of his system. And you need comedy to survive. I never realized how important comedy was until the lockdowns. I'll be frank with you. I love comedy. I love laughing. Never realized how important it was until the lockdowns and the censorship that's been going on. So I'm an all of the above guy. All right, let's check this out, Gabe.
I love Will Smith. My whole life, I love this. I saw him open up for Run DMC at the Nassau Coliseum. And now I watch Emancipation just to see him get whooped. And a lot of people go, Chris, how come you didn't do nothing back? How come you didn't do nothing back that night? Because I got parents. That's why. Because I was raised. Okay? I got parents. And you know what my parents taught me? Don't fight in front of white people.
All right, so that was Chris Rock getting back at Will Smith, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think what Will Smith did. I mean, Will Smith seemed to be an okay guy to me. I liked Will Smith. He kept his rap music clean back in the day, really fun. And I always admired that about him. I don't know what his relationship is with Jada Pinkett, but some crazy kinky stuff has gone on in that relationship, outside relationship, so on, et cetera. So it was a weird thing that Will Smith would get so mad and so frustrated that he would slap Chris Rock when there were rumors and stories out there of affairs that were going on, especially with Jada Pinkett. And it didn't seem like he got as angry with that. I mean, obviously, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but comedy is important. Comedy is important for freedom. Now I realize I realize why now. All right. So let me just close out with these. Just a couple of stories that I want to bring you. California Reparations Board has now said they want to raise the payment amount of reparations and they insist reparations will reduce crime. Reparations will not reduce crime. Reparations will create more divisiveness. And by the way, the money isn't even there. Now they want people to pay out. They want the board, California Reparations Board, wants blacks to get paid $360,000. Blacks that were never slaves to be paid from people that were never slave owners. That's increased from $220,000. This crap is old. And I'm sorry, for all of you white people out there, you need to start fighting back against this crap. You really do. Maybe you need to leave the state of California. Don't participate in this crap. You got 5 to 6% of people that have any connection, whites that have any connection to slavery whatsoever in America. And by the way, it is their ancestors that are guilty of that sin. God will judge them accordingly. All of these black people, get over this crap. You live in America. This is the best country that God has ever created for every single race, regardless of your race. The only people that are systemically racist, it seems to me, is the Democrat Party and, frankly, many of the black people that vote Democrat. So that is one story. Another story is Walmart is leaving Portland. Walmart is leaving Portland as crime continues to surge. They're tired of their products being stolen instead of people buying them. Another story, Columbia University, I think is big, does away with the SAT, ACT requirements for applicants. Again, this is a very bad idea. A lot of people don't need to be in college. Columbia University, an Ivy League, it's supposed to offer the best of the best. Now they're dumbing down our Ivy Leagues. If you listen to Dennis Prager, he can tell you he used to teach there. He said this has been happening as far as he can remember back in the 70s when he was there. This stuff was happening. This is absolutely asinine. When you get rid of the ACT, when you get rid of the SAT, you don't find the diamonds in the rough. There's a lot of kids that test badly or don't care about school, but they test with the ACT, SAT, and you realize, oh my God, these kids were just a little rebellious, but they're genius. And now you're just going to cater to grades. You can get good grades by kissing your teacher's booty, by doing a lot of makeup work or doing a lot of bonus work. It doesn't mean you're the smartest bunch in the group. SATs and SATs would distinguish that, and now they're gone. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. So I taught you about these three stories. I talked to you about Iran. I talked to you about Trump. That's Jackson's 5. And guys, save the working class, buy a home. Until next time, I appreciate you tuning in to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.